Welcome back, fifth grade. We are now going to jump into our independent practice and prepare our responses for our ACE response and our exit ticket. Now, guys, I am treating this just like it's class, and Mrs. Trotter forgot to do something. So I am definitely blaming my front row babies, which are Diana, Iram, Alberto, and Maddie. How did you guys forget to remind me to review the DIRT quiz? So, scholars, before we jump into our independent practice, we are going to review our DIRT quiz from Friday. So, question one was, which selection from the article best shows that ancient Egyptian women had control over their personal lives? Now, when you look at this question, the key words is had control in personal lives. The best answer from these answer choices is C. They could marry someone for love. They could spell out marriage agreements to protect them. Now, the reason why C is the best is because we're talking about their personal life. And marriage and love is your personal life. Let's look at question two. Question two was another one of our most challenging questions on our DIRT quiz. Question two says, select the paragraph from the section, it was telling us which section to go to, limits to the top that explains how the idea that women should have equal rights as men has existed for a long time. Scholars, the correct answer for number two is E. Again, the correct answer for number two is E, paragraph 5. Question 3, what are the main ideas of the articles? You guys did great with identifying the main idea. The correct answer is A. Most women in ancient Greece were not valued like men. Women in ancient Egypt, however, had many rights. Question 4, which selection would be most important to include in a summary of the article? Scholars, the correct answer is B. Women there were mostly considered the legal equals of men. The correct answer again for question 4 is B. Again, scholars, the correct answers are question 1, C, question 2, E, question 3, A, and question 4, B. We're moving. So now, scholars, we're going into our independent. Let's remember our ACE response, our discussion prompt is, how are the queens mentioned in the article, not just Cleopatra? Museum tells history of queens in ancient Egypt similar or different to Cleopatra. Write an ACE response, including evidence from the book and the article. So, scholars, as we go in, we must include evidence from both the book and the article. Let's also remember we're telling how they're similar or how they are different. So, scholars, in front of you, you should have your chart. This graphic organizer is going to allow us to organize our information so that we are successful when responding to our discussion prompt. Let's first look at Cleopatra. Now, you should have your book in front of you. I want you to go to chapter 1. The reason we're going to chapter 1 is because chapter 1 is the chapter that gives us the best and most descriptions and characterization of Cleopatra. Scholars, I am going to give you 1 minute. You're going to go through the text, find how the author characterizes Cleopatra or describes Cleopatra, and you're going to annotate. So you can underline, you can circle, you can highlight. All right, you have 1 minute to do that. Once we come back, I'm going to give you a minute to write on your organizer how or what those characterizations and descriptions were. All right, you have 1 minute. Let's go. All right, scholars. So now that you've kind of skimmed through chapter 1, looking for evidence, it is now time for us to write that evidence in our organizer or on our organizer under Cleopatra. You have 1 minute. Let's go. Okay, scholars. So now that we've written about Cleopatra, let's go to our article. Now, the evidence that we're using today will come directly from our article. Now, remember, I told you we were not going to read the entire article. I want you now to go down to paragraphs 5 and 6. Okay, you found it? Now that you're at paragraphs 5 and 6, you're rereading because you've already read this. I want you to go in and look for evidence. How did they describe the queens, the other queens? They talked about the kids being able to smell something. What was it? What did that tell us about the other queens? What new information did we learn? I want you to go in, find that evidence. You have 1 minute. Again, it's paragraphs 5 and paragraphs 6. All right, your 1 minute has started. All right, scholars. So now that you found that evidence, it's now time to write. I want you to go in and write the evidence under other queens. Again, this should only come from paragraphs 5 and 6. What new information did we learn? What did the queens do? How were the queens? Whatever information you found, paragraphs 5 and 6, I am trying my very best not to give away the answers. So again, it is now time for you to write. You are writing, this should be under, in the second column, under other queens. You have 1 minute. Let's go. 30 seconds. All right, scholars. So we are at our last column. We are at had sheep suit. We are now going to look at paragraph 7. You're in your article. I want you to look in paragraph 7. We learn a few good things about this queen. They talk about how she was the most important queen, and then she did something different out of the ordinary to gain respect. I want you to go in and find evidence. What is something we learn about her that shows how they characterized or described her in this article? Again, we are at paragraph 7. You have 1 minute. You're just identifying that evidence. You're not writing just yet. You have 1 minute. Let's go. All right, scholars, now that we have that, it is now time to write. And yes, I did say that she was she was the most important queen. So if you found that, you can definitely write that as well. You now have 1 minute. You are writing your response. All right, scholars, so that is our time. So in front of you on your graphic organizer, you should have evidence that characterizes and describes Cleopatra from chapter 1. You should have evidence that characterizes and describes the other queens from the article from paragraphs 5 and 6. And then our very last queen, paragraph 7. So let's move on. So, scholars, it is now time for your exit ticket. Now, remember, in your exit ticket, you are answering how are the queens mentioned in the article, not just Cleopatra, museum tells history of queens in ancient Egypt, similar or different to Cleopatra. Write an ACE response, including evidence from the book and the article. Now, scholars, it is an ACE response. That means you have your claim or argument, your context, your evidence, and again, this evidence must come from the book and the article. And then you have an analysis. And in your analysis, you are using a hired word, making an inference, or giving a by or because statement. Again, scholars, today's exit ticket is an ACE response. You're telling how the queens in the article similar or different. You're using evidence from both the book and text, and you are writing in an ACE response. Scholars, I cannot wait to read your responses. I hope you have a magnificent Monday, and I will see you on tomorrow.